there is evidence-based now behind nutrition, behind movement. I tell people movement is the best supplement for the brain.
Welcome to Unstoppable at Any Age. I'm Dr. Shawna, naturopathic doctor, master's athlete, and founder of a global movement helping women train for their future health. This podcast exists for one reason: to expand what you believe is possible with age. Each week I sit down with women who are redefining the trajectory of their lives, athletes, scientists, founders, and leaders who are continuing to build strength, performance, and momentum in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Along the way, we explore the science of metabolic health, movement, and longevity, and the daily decisions that protect your brain, your body, and your future. Because how you move today determines how you live tomorrow. This is Unstoppable at Any Age. Today's conversation is a powerful reminder that being unstoppable doesn't always look the way people expect. My guest is Dr. Teri Jaklin, a naturopathic practitioner, lifelong movement advocate, and someone who has spent more than 4 decades living with multiple sclerosis while continuing to rebuild, adapt, and fully live her life. In this episode, we talk about mindset, neuroplasticity, movement, resilience, and what it really means to live beyond a diagnosis. This is a conversation about possibility, personal responsibility, and refusing to let someone else define the trajectory of your life. Welcome, Teri. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've been so excited about this conversation.
I'm always
Thank you.
excited to talk to you, Shawna.
I know we've known each other for a while now. I was trying to think back when we first met. The reason I know the timeline is because it was before I sold my clinic, and
Yeah,
we were going
definitely.
through big life changes at the same time. And
Indeed.
so I think that was back in 2018.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time
And
flies, eh?
yeah, you were taking the lead on all of that. And it was like, it just put that like seed of possibility in my brain that, oh, I could do this too.
Oh, nice.
I've been so inspired by watching you create a life that you love and redefining your work.
Mhm.
And I wanted to go back though, because your story is really interesting. And when I talk about being unstoppable at any age, you fit right into that, but in a very different lens than a lot of the women I'm talking to.
That's right. I'm not a master athlete. Not
No,
yet. Not yet.
right. It's still in the realm of possibility. So you talk very openly about living with MS, and
Mhm.
you were first diagnosed in your 20s and now you're in your
Yes,
60s. So
that's correct. Yeah.
let's start at the beginning. Tell me about the time in your 20s, because I think our audience would love to hear your story because it's a
Okay.
big one.
Okay. First of all, I was always active, always. In high school, I was a cross-country runner. I did track and field. I was always a horseback rider, a mountain biker, all of that kind of stuff. And so when I was 23 when I was diagnosed, and I was pretty cheeky when I was 23. People think I'm cheeky now, but I was over the top back then. First of all, nobody knew what MS was back then. Nobody talked about it. But when I was diagnosed, I thought, okay, I didn't like my neurologist very much, and I was very clear to him what I needed from him, and he wasn't able to provide that with me. So I asked for a second opinion or somebody else to talk to. And he told me the same thing. He said, yeah, this is bad. He said, your brain has got so many lesions on it. We stopped counting them at 25. And based on what we know now, it doesn't look good. And the first neurologist had told me to go home and get my affairs in order, which at 23, I didn't even know what that meant. And this fella, the second guy, said, who is lovely and benevolent and went on to do a lot of work in MS, told me to run along and have a good life. So I chose to follow his advice
Right.
rather than
Much
give
better.
yeah, indeed.
So, did you believe that was your future? What were your thoughts at the time?
In hindsight, 23 is pretty young, or it was for me at the time. I was in university. I went to university late, and I don't, you know what, honestly, Sean, I don't know what I thought, but what I didn't think was, wah, oh my God, my life is over. And I think that had a lot to do with what the second neurologist told me, which was run along and have a good life. That was an easy piece of advice from a doctor to follow because I was used to having a good life and I just continued to do. Instead of going home and getting my affairs in order, I went home and polished my saddle and went for a long ride. And then the following weekend, I went whitewater rafting in Ottawa. So it was I never thought of it as as an obstacle to living. I thought of it as, okay, this is interesting. And like I said, we talk about the power of words and the power of how your mind works. And having two neurologists tell me completely different things and choosing to follow the guy that said, have a good life, I think that makes a big difference. I think it made a big difference for me.
And I see you do this every day. Like I see you choosing life and choosing your path forwards with MS still there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And now people say, I always talk to people about living beyond the diagnosis because unfortunately, our medical model is about here's the diagnosis, here's the likelihood, they don't talk to you about what do you do, how do you eat, how do you enjoy life, whatever. They just assume that it's a downhill trajectory for a lot of conditions. But like even now, yesterday, I spent the whole day in the garden. Sure, I'm using a mobility scooter, but I was raking and digging and doing everything that I need to do. And one of the things I just moved to a province that I didn't realize was covered with beaches, but it's also rocky. So rather than say, oh man, I can't get down to the beach, I bought myself an all-wheel drive, all-terrain vehicle that gets me down on the beach, and it's still considered a mobility scooter, so I can take it anywhere.
I love that.
And
I
I
mean,
love it.
that's your life is yeah, you see us like what could be an obstacle for someone else and you find a solution.
Well, exactly. And people say, "Oh, I can't afford this, I can't afford that." And I get it. It's not cheap to live with a disability or altered ability, as I like to say. But we've just never worried about that. My husband and I have always said quality of life first, and we'll figure out how to pay for it later.
Got
You
it.
know?
Yeah, of course, you got to
So
live.
exactly.
So let's talk more about beliefs because I think that's like what you were hinting at before in terms of the
Yeah.
second neurologist and how that can affect your neurochemistry. So tell me more about that because I want to hear more about your perspective and how that's led you over the years.
Something I've always said, and I don't know, I'm sure I stole it from someone, I don't know, but where the mind goes, the body follows, right? And that's what I mean by if it's a boohoo story in your mind, then it's a boohoo story in your body. And that's just, I don't have to tell you, you've seen it in action,
Of
right?
course.
And anybody who's really dealt with people in a mind body situation knows that's the case. And I know from when, don't get me wrong, I have my boohoo moments too. And man, do I notice how quickly the body will accommodate that state of mind. And then sometimes it can be harder than others to get out of that.
Of
I
course.
I had a very difficult time during COVID, personally and professionally. Professionally, everybody everybody was working overtime in healthcare because a lot of people were suffering
Yeah.
and I was suffering and I had moved to an in-between place on our way to our new home and I was not happy there. I was not in a good headspace and I was not in a good body space either.
Hmm. So give me a few examples about how you change your own neurochemistry. If you're getting into a slump, what are the tools that you use?
The two most powerful ones are smile and breathe. And nature. We live on a lake, so I just go right down. We have a deck right on the water, and I go down to the water and I smile and I breathe. And really, just the act of smiling can change your biochemistry as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I 100% know that's true.
Yeah.
I've used that in marathons even, right? Where if
Yeah.
I smile at the crowd, it changes everything. Doesn't matter how much I'm suffering.
Exactly. And I have my own marathon, and
Yes.
smiling helps me too. And people don't understand these are the simple little free things that we can do to regulate our body and be unstoppable. And age is just incidental. Age is just whatever. I don't have to tell you. When did you run your first marathon?
50.
Right? I feel like I've got a few more miles left in me. You don't stop, right?
No. So, where did this belief come from? How did you build it? Was it always in you?
I don't know. I guess it was. I was raised in a hard work kind of household. I was raised by an immigrant father and I was the eldest of four on a farm. So imagine the disappointment when I was not a boy. Just persevering and continuing was good. But I always also found managed to find ways to escape in that. And I think that's always been a part of me. I used to go to the top of the barn and look out, just hang out the window when I was a little kid. Like if anybody had ever seen me, they probably would have had a heart attack. And that was an escape. So that was like, I just wanted to fly. I just wanted to jump off that. And I remember going back to the back of the farm and there was this huge boulder that stuck out of the hill, and it overlooked a creek, and all the wild animals came there to drink. And so I would see at nightfall you would see skunks and rabbits and deer and whatever coming out to drink out of this creek. So I had these escapes and I had that side of me as well. So maybe it's a fusion of that hard work and that
Mm.
fantasy world that I lived in.
You must have somewhere linked it together that anything was possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'd love you to share a bit more about all the things that you do that people probably don't expect you to do with altered ability. Just like your all-wheel drive vehicle to get to the
Yeah.
beach and gardening, but
Yeah.
tell us about your workouts, about cooking, about
Oh
how
yeah.
passionate you are about your work. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I still work. I'm 64, and which by the way, I don't know where that came from. But sorry, I lost my track there. Anyway, I love cooking. I could spend and I do. My Saturdays are kitchen days. And I have a little saddle stool. It just looks like a saddle basically, and it's telescopic, and I just spin around my kitchen on that. And that is a core workout. Oh my God, that's a core
Yes.
workout. Sometimes by the end of the day, it's Mike, I need help getting off this thing. But what else do I do? I work out, and we were just talking about this before we started. I'm restarting again after that post-COVID kind of funk that I was in, and I'm up to working out pretty much every day now. And what do my workouts look like? I have a seated elliptical.
Hmm.
So I have one workout that is seated elliptical and free weights. And then I also have a Swedish ladder on the wall in my workout room. And so I'll do sit to stands and lunges and squats and stuff with the Swedish ladder. And I also have a vibration plate. So sometimes I put the vibration plate under the Swedish ladder and I pull myself into sort of a semi-squat position on that. And the more you do,
Yes.
and it's astounding to me, I've been diagnosed, what's the math on that? 43 years now. And
Mm.
my body still responds. Like even after going through a funk of a number of years, it's yes, there it is, responding again. I actually have a little alarm on my watch that every few hours that says time to move.
Yes.
And I, of course, move after I eat and make like intentional movement, whatever that might be. That might be squats, that might be upper body, that might be. I have a manual wheelchair, a little titanium wheelchair that I actually bought for the exercise, believe it or
Right.
not. So I've got a little lift in my car that will take it. Do I need a wheelchair? I don't know. It's just another tool, but I use it because and I feel it in my legs. Even though you're using your upper body, you're engaged in the core and you're engaging your legs. And people don't realize, like when everything works perfectly, you don't really realize how things are strung together. Just by using the upper body, you've got to be locking down that core, and that means you're locking down the glutes and the quads as well.
Of course. I love hearing all this because I don't have a big enough imagination to understand how all these things work. I know even myself, if I get one little injury, it's so easy to let it pull me out of the routine of working out or just adapting what I can do based on what's going on. I just love hearing how everything can be adapted.
Oh, and it can be.
Yeah.
I remember going to a yoga class when I still lived in Burlington, and she came to me because I was using a chair. And she said, if there's anything I'll come by and I'll show you some adaptive stuff. I got news. I've been doing yoga since the 70s, since when it was a wingy thing to do. You know what I mean? And so it's absolutely easy to adapt. And I remember her saying, wow, you're really good at this. Has somebody taught you how to do this? I was like, yeah, me. I feel what it feels like and I go with it.
Of course.
So
You know
I
your own
guess
body.
part of it is also having a relationship with your body and saying, okay, because I've worked with, like I said, I was always active. And then when I was diagnosed, I didn't have any mobility issues for the first 20 years. Like I was still running, I was still actively running like 15 years in. And so, sorry, what I wanted to say was I always worked with movement therapists after I was diagnosed. That was important to me. And a couple of my favorites were, they were movement therapists that the one gal did Pilates, but she was a dancer, and nobody knows how the body strings together better than dancers. The most powerful movement therapist I've worked with have been dancers, and the other one was a PhD neurophysio
Nice.
who was had been a dancer, and that was just like mind blowing. So working on all the principles of neuroplasticity, right? Which
Yes.
is with intentional repetitive movement, you recreate neural pathways in your brain so that you can move again.
And sometimes that's more mental than physical at first,
It sure is.
in terms
Well,
of the wiring of the neurological connection, and then the physical follows.
absolutely. And that's because we live in the world of the quick fix and the empty promise, right? Everybody
Yes.
thinks they see people doing well with MS and they think, oh, I want to do whatever he or she is doing. It doesn't work like that. And it's just like training for a marathon. It's constant. It requires routine. It requires intentional living. It requires good food. It requires good rest. It requires that foundation
Yes.
for success, right? So that foundation is consistent, whether you're a marathon runner, a master athlete, or a master person with MS.
Yes, absolutely. That's one thing I've noticed with everyone who I know who's still active at any age is that they've all had setbacks. They've all had injuries. Most of them had surgeries, but they came back.
Yeah.
They, like everybody who wanted to come back did,
And
even if it was
you've got to
modified.
want it. You've got to
Yes.
want it. That's the bottom line because it's easy to roll over and play dead, especially if you get into some of the boohoo groups on Facebook and stuff, where it's just symptom swapping and misery conversation. And like I said, I don't want to be anything but sympathetic because I get it.
Yeah.
I've had those sucky days myself, or weeks or months. And to your point about surgery, I had my right knee replaced in 2015 and it was a mess. Like it was, I'm sure most of your listeners know anatomy. So my medial collateral ligament was missing. She couldn't find it.
Oh dear.
My lateral collateral ligament was avulsed, and my anterior cruciate ligament was flapping like a sheet in the breeze. And so she was, and because I'm hypermobile, like a lot of people with MS, I hyperextended my knees and she was worried that I was going to blow back through my knee. You know what I mean? And so I agreed to have the surgery. And in one way, I'm glad that I have it because it's rock solid now. But on the other hand, it was definitely a setback. And it's been, what's that, 12 years now? And my right side of my body, which was previously my strong side, it was definitely weakened through the trauma of that surgery. And if I extend with weights, my right arm, I have to be mindful to push it that little bit further to get it up there so that it's equal with my other one.
Interesting.
So it's like I said, it's all about doing things mindfully
Yeah. Yeah.
and being present in your life.
Something you've told me before is that was it a neuroscientist you met with who said that you're never too advanced with MS to make progress? That
He's
really stuck with me.
Oh, listen, those words stuck with me and I think about them every day. Actually, what he said to me was, you're never too old, you've never had MS too long, and you're never too advanced to make positive change.
Like
And
you can plant that into everyone's brain with a diagnosis.
yeah,
I think it can change everything.
for sure. And just a little bit more of a note on that. When I was in that study, so that study was a study on neuroplasticity and how, yes, it was using the Pons device, but another thing I learned from the neuroscientist was that we didn't really need the Pons device to do this. It's just that's what they were testing, right? Because our body naturally does this. And it was just exercise. So 3 20-minute sessions a day. And in the first phase of that study, I increased my walking threefold.
Wow.
Actually, more than threefold because I stopped the measuring in the after part because that's where the building ended. I said, I want to go outside. I want to keep walking. You know what I mean? There's something to be said about it, but we've got to be consistent with it. It's just like you. You don't just think, oh, I got a marathon coming up. I better start training next week. It's a constant ongoing thing,
Yeah,
right?
you have a plan and you stick with it. And
Right?
yeah, you get a
Exactly.
coach, you get someone to support you with it.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
another good point. You get a coach,
Mm.
right? Who are the people who's on your healthcare team? That's what I ask people a lot.
Yes.
And because you can't do it alone. You can't have a diagnosis of chronic illness and think you're going to overcome it in any way, shape, or form all by yourself. Even with Google and AI and stuff, you're still not going to. And all of that stuff doesn't replace experience and wisdom. And I've always worked with professionals. Like who's on my team right now? She's a not a neurophysio, but she knows a lot about neurological stuff. An acupuncturist, because that's something I prefer, like I love acupuncture. My naturopath, of course, is my primary point of care. And I'm actually starting to think I might work with a personal trainer again. So
Mm.
just have to find that's what I'm looking for now.
No, I agree. You need also someone who believes in you and your
Yeah.
possibility
Yeah.
because there are times where it slides and slips and you're having a bad day and like to prevent you from falling down those
Yeah.
rabbit holes.
Absolutely. And that's a really important. Like I had a personal trainer once years ago who didn't believe in me.
Mm.
So I fired him.
No, I 100% agree. It's the same
Yeah.
when I'm looking for a coach for sports. I've worked with a couple of people who it just wasn't personal enough. They didn't know who I was or what I was capable of, or
Yeah.
maybe I didn't feel comfortable sharing my big dreams.
Yeah,
Even if they're
exactly.
unrealistic, I love chasing something.
And my big dream is to walk again. You know what
Yes.
I mean? And the more, like I said, the more you do, the more you do. And you see it. Like those results are do not go unnoticed, put it that way.
So, what do you think people get wrong when they've been told they've got a diagnosis?
They roll over and play dead. They buy it. They buy whatever story it is that is given to them at that point. And we've got to understand that at that point, you're dealing 100% with the medical model. And not saying anything bad about the medical model. If I got hit by a bus tomorrow, it would be the first place I went, you know.
Yes.
But people need to understand that they have options. There is evidence base now behind nutrition, behind movement. I tell people movement is the best supplement for the brain.
Yes.
There's nothing better you can do for your brain than to move.
My big mission right now is to get women moving because
Yeah,
the more you look at it, the more like it's the biggest longevity lever we've got.
absolutely.
It surpasses pretty much everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you might have one diagnosis, but MS, but it doesn't preclude you to other diagnoses. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You just want to bring more health in whatever way you can.
And to keep living.
Yes, living beyond the diagnosis. The diagnosis is one guy's opinion, it's one piece of information. Don't let it bring you down. You've got a life to live. How old are most people when they're diagnosed? I think I was pretty young. They're diagnosing it later now. I
Mm.
think that's just because they can. I think a lot of people that are diagnosed in their 30s and 40s and 50s have actually had it for decades already.
And just like other conditions where a scan does not tell your whole prognosis.
No,
So the number of lesions you have certainly
well,
hasn't predicted your quality of life right now.
no.
It's the same with Alzheimer's too. Like they'll find a bunch of lesions in the brain, but it does not directly correlate with
No,
ability to live or function.
absolutely. And
Mm.
I've got a perfect example of that. I had a patient once who was bedridden and he had 8 very stable lesions on his brain. And he was in palliative care eventually. Now, so here's something to talk about. He smoked, he ate whatever he wanted, he didn't believe he had any power. He wanted to do things before the disease took him, kind of thing. Yeah, so mindset was horrible, diet was horrible, movement was horrible. Those are three huge variables that, like I said, are foundational: mindset, movement, diet, and self-care. To me, those
Hmm.
are the foundations.
Tell me more about the diet piece then.
Oh, what do you want to know? How long do you got?
I guess the Cole's notes. Yeah, nutrition is like the building blocks for everything that goes on in our
Yeah,
body.
yeah.
What are the most important things to include in a nutrition plan if we're talking about a neurological issue?
Yeah, whole foods. I know that sounds silly, but we live in such a convenience world that we've got a lot of processed, prepackaged, pre-prepared foods because nobody has time to cook anymore. And like I said, I spend the entire day on Saturdays in the kitchen and
Hmm.
love it. Love it. It gives me great satisfaction to grow my own food. We have gardens and gardens that we're planting right now. And knowing where your food comes from, staying away from anything that's got anything in the ingredients that you can't pronounce or more than 3 or 4 or 5 ingredients. And we've got gluten-free is an understood benefit for people with neurological conditions. So we get people that switch and they just look to replace this glutinous food with a gluten-free version of it, and they end up insulin sensitive in 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean? So that's just creating more problems. That's just creating an inflammatory fat factory.
I 100% agree. Like something I talk about a lot is just cooking meals at home
Oh
because it
yeah,
changes health dramatically, even putting much other guidelines on it. So just
absolutely.
eating real food, cooking at home. And
Yeah.
it sounds so simplistic, but when we do that, we don't really have to think too much about portion sizes because the body feels satiated.
Yeah, and you don't feel like I can tell now if I've eaten out or not.
Me too.
Like it's just, and I make the best choices possible, but it's a commercial kitchen. That's all you can say. It's still a commercial kitchen, so you have no control over the quality of ingredients. You have no control over the flame that it's cooked on, the temperature, so whether you're denaturing oils and fats that are being used. But, and what I just want to emphasize to people is that you can make good food fast.
Oh my
You
goodness.
don't have to spend all day on Saturday. Like I made a million things in Saturday. I make a pot of bone broth. I made that day's dinner and the next day's dinner. And I even baked a cake. And but you can make good food fast. So for example, like tonight, I'm not spending all night in the kitchen. So it's Monday, so it's way before grocery shopping day. So it's one of those you open the fridge door and you go, okay, what am I going to whip up from here?
Yes.
So we've got a bag of shrimps in the freezer, local shrimps. We're going to make a shrimp stir fry and we've got some vegetables. Probably won't be enough, so I'll probably stretch it with some quinoa. And like quinoa takes 15 minutes. You could be stir frying your vegetables at the same time, and good grief, shrimp cook in minutes, right?
Yes.
So literally maybe 10 minutes of prep
Yes.
and 10 or 15 minutes of cooking, and you've got the healthiest meal ever.
Oh, I'm the queen of the 20-minute dinner.
Absolutely. We have to be nowadays, right?
Yeah,
I still work
yeah.
full time.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
yes, you've got to be able to eat well and learn how to do it fast. And people say, "Oh, I can't cook." Learn to cook.
Yeah.
It's not hard. When Mike and I first got married, he said, and that's when I still own the clinic, so you know what that story is about. Lots of work.
Lots of work.
He said to me, teach me one thing that I can make so that one night a week I can make dinner. So I taught him how to make a stir fry and the concept of the stir fry,
Right.
right? Which is whatever vegetables you have in the fridge, cut in big pieces. Whatever meat you have in the fridge, cut into big pieces, right? Whatever seasonings you have, sprinkle, right?
Yes.
And there you go, a little splash of tamari, and you've got the world's best stir fry. Now, Mike is a master in the kitchen, and he aced stir fries years ago,
Yes.
and he's on to bigger and better things now. So it just takes, just do it once. And I hope you can get as hooked on it as I can. And don't look right now, good grief, there's so many good resources on the web to find delicious, nutritious meals. And even you can even put in 20 minutes,
You can
you can
put
find.
gluten-free whole food, 20 minutes. Yes.
I always preface my search with delicious.
Oh, good one.
Delicious, gluten-free, high protein, 20-minute dinner. Yeah, you can't I've always said this, always. So I've been practicing for about 25 years now. I can't, as a naturopathic doctor, I can't prescribe over a bad diet. So
Mm,
if you're not eating well, don't waste any money on supplements.
true.
Don't waste your money because the biggest change you're going to make is by changing your diet.
And it doesn't need to be complicated.
Exactly. And then you can know what you need to supplement.
Otherwise, we're just guessing and trying to put out the inflammation and the fires.
Yeah, or just falling for someone's schlick marketing.
True. True. Personally, I don't take many supplements. So
Yeah, yeah.
I put a lot of weight in stress management, eating
Uh,
well, and moving my body every day.
and those are foundations, right?
Yeah. So you're in your 60s, you're still rebuilding and reinventing. So what is your long game? What are you going after right now?
I still believe that I will walk again. So I can stand and I can take a few steps and stuff. And I just my long game is just ultimately it's to keep having fun.
Yeah,
Like fun to me is it's a question I have on my intake. What do you do for fun? And most people say, I don't really have time for that right now. I want to make sure that I always have time for fun.
love.
And yesterday was a sunny day. I'm working on my income taxes, and yesterday was supposed to be a tax day. It was sunny and 15 degrees. It hasn't been that here for ages. I was in my garden all day.
Yes,
I'll figure it. I'll figure the taxes out.
there'll
No.
be a rainy day.
Yeah, I realize I have a bit of a different attitude, but it's developed over time, right? It's developed after the highs and the lows of real life on real terms. And I think to be unstoppable at any age begins and ends right here between the ears. You got to believe it. You got to want to do it. You got to make the change and the choices to
Yes.
make it happen. And it's not always easy. My dad, God bless him, when he was still alive, he was a German. And in German, there's a great word, Spinner. And he used to call me and my husband Spinner. And that's just like dreamer, like you're spinning. Yeah. And I embrace that. I do break a lot of rules. I always have. That's been my nature. I don't let other people tell me what I should do. And I certainly don't let anyone else, and I would say this from a medical perspective, predict the outcome of my life.
You broke all the rules with your diagnosis and prognosis,
Yeah.
all of them. Love watching you thrive and what I watched you move across the country and set up a gorgeous home and recreate the work that you're doing and spend time in a garden that brings you joy. It's just so wonderful to see because when we met, we were both in a place of dissatisfaction in our careers, which again on the surface looked really good and successful.
Yeah.
But personally, like that joy was missing a bit.
Yeah.
You keep inspiring me to take that little step forward, which is again part of this podcast as well, of doing something that lights me up.
You inspire me every day with the way you took control when you were midlife. We'll call it midlife, right?
We don't call it a crisis. We'll call it a midlife awakening, choosing joy.
Exactly.
Learning how to
Exactly.
choose myself is how I say it in the most positive way.
So I guess if I'm 64, I can't really be calling it midlife anymore, huh? Unless I think I'm going to live to be 130. Hey, maybe I will. Maybe
Who
that'll be my long
knows?
game.
It's quality though, right? If you're still
Absolutely.
having fun and the joy is there and you're living, then absolutely. But that's what we're all after is the quality of life and
Yeah.
keeping it fun.
And the joy doesn't have to be giddy, hoo, 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 joy all the time. Joy can just be okayness. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be like over the top, giddy, crazy. Oh my God, I'm gushing with joy. Joy can just be okayness. This is okay. It can be self-compassion. It can be acceptance. It can be all of those things that put you in a place to be able to make the choices to make change.
That's true. And that puts your nervous system into a receptive place instead of being strung out and all of that. I always think one of the places I would say I feel the most joy is just in a sunbeam on the couch.
Oh, I can't get enough sun, let me tell you.
I'm like a cat.
It's sunny here now, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I've got a pretty open day tomorrow. So you better believe I'm going to be in my garden again all day tomorrow. Yeah, sunshine. Sunshine heals. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like the physiology of sunshine way goes way beyond vitamin D, way beyond it.
Yes.
So think
Yeah.
about smiling and breathing in the sunshine. Ha!
Perfect.
Am I starting to sound like a naturopath?
Yes. We both are. Eat real food, get out in the sun, breathe.
And foundational. Like I just find, you probably see this yourself. Like we spend so much time now on whatever the health situation, whether you're trying to be a master athlete or whether you're trying to live life beyond the diagnosis of anything, we get lost in the information. And that leads to analysis paralysis. And we don't do anything. We don't integrate. We just become collectors of information. And
Right.
that's not going to get us anywhere.
No,
No,
there's a little bit of mental satisfaction of learning something and getting like the
sure.
integration, but then the turning it into life it has to follow.
It has to follow, or else it's just too much information because there's always more information. I could spend an entire weekend just gathering more information about a single topic,
Yes.
or I could be outside doing something.
Yeah.
Right.
So, can we wrap up with I'd love you to say again what that neurologist told you that you're never too old, because I would like everyone to hear that as an ending with this podcast, because that can translate to
Anything. It,
absolutely anything. And
absolutely.
again, that still hits me from our conversation when we were talking about creating this podcast last week.
Yeah. So it straight from the neuroscientist who works on neuroplasticity, you're never too old. You've never had your condition too long, and you're never too advanced to make positive change.
Oh, thank you. So let that sink in.
There you go.
Thank you so much for being with me today. This was as inspiring as I hoped it would be.
Oh,
And
thanks.
I will put all the ways you can contact Teri in the show notes if you want to learn more about her work as well. She's a fantastic naturopathic practitioner as well.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Take care.
If this conversation expanded what you believe is possible, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. This podcast is part of a global movement called Women Who Move, helping women train for their future health through daily movement. You can join us at drshawnaderu.com. Because strength isn't behind you, it's built through what you choose to do next. I'm Dr. Shawna Deru, and this is Unstoppable at Any Age.